Looks like it's starting up on YouTube. You can see back there. Alright. Give that a shot. So today I am going to I'm going to redevelop a day-night cycle for Unreal Engine. I'm going to use dynamic lighting, and I'm going to make it so that it increments time as opposed to running continuously. Although if you wanted to, you could change the blueprint that I'm going to work on to run continuously. But when you do that, oftentimes you'll end up with lighting artifacts, and I'm not a lighting artist, and lighting is, there's a lot you can do with it. So I'm going to show a hopefully a quick way to blueprint around that. I haven't looked at the system I built a while ago for a long time, so I'm just going to wing it. We'll see where I get. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new project, and I'm going to do it in Blueprint, and I will go ahead and just do we'll go ahead and do a third-person project. No, we'll do blank, I don't care, with the starter content. So let's get that up and running. I'm using Unreal Engine 4.11.2, 4.11.2. Once that's loaded, I will get right to it. So, see the cats having some fun in the background there. Alright, so incremented day-night cycle. If we ever get past 93%, 96%, look at that. There we go. And here it is. Let's get my windows to some manageable size for the one screen that I'm working on. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the world settings, which are undocked right now for some reason. And I'm going to go to light mass and advanced settings, and down at the bottom of this you should have some settings that will help you. It's good to know where all these are as you try and adjust your lighting throughout this. So once you switch to dynamic lighting, you'll need to mess with these to get all of your indirect lighting and everything correct. So I will also go to the project settings to wherever lighting is. Oh, it's under rendering. Rendering, lighting, allow static lighting. I'm going to turn that off. You can leave it on if you have static lights. I'm not going to have any static lights. I'm going to take the directional light and I'm going to change it to dynamic. So I'm going to turn allow static lighting off, and then notice that that requires a restart. So I'm going to go ahead and restart. Should restart pretty quickly this time. Jumps you right back into the same project, and that will be set. Project settings, rendering, allow static lighting. I think there's also a setting to force dynamic lighting, but I can't remember where that is at the moment. That's okay. I will be directed to it, I'm sure, once I start doing this. So, first thing to do in the actual level is go to the skylight, details, open up the light details more, and you're going to keep translucent shadows on, and you're going to do dynamic indirect lighting. You're going to want that. Cast static shadows off, cast dynamic shadows on, affect translucent lighting, and you're going to want to make sure that it is a movable, not a stationary light. That way, as you rotate it, the actual lighting, you can see it's changing it on here. So let's go ahead and undo those two changes. The skylight is going to affect indirect lighting. You'll leave most of these the same. I don't know if there's anything that you need to change right off the bat. Fix world, cast shadows, cast dynamic shadows. It does not cast static shadows. We're not doing any of that. Affects translucent lighting. Fair enough. So now we have a skylight, we have the light source, then we're going to want the sky sphere. And from the sky sphere, we want it to use this light source, and what you can do, I believe, is if you select this light, change the angle, go to the sky sphere, and update it, then notice that it updated the sky color based on the angle of the light, and it moved the sun to that position. That's going to be key, because in creating this blueprint, you're going to not want to touch the sky sphere very much. What you're going to want to do is on an event tick or wherever you do this in the blueprint, you're going to want to force an update so that you can change the angle of this light, then select this programmatically and force a refresh as you do it. Now, it'll be more incremental than that, so it won't flash, but that's the general idea. So, I'm going to do this in the level blueprint. If you are building out a more modular system, you might want to build this in a controller that accesses the level and then gets the light. But since I can get easy references to everything, then in the level blueprint, just by drag and dropping, I'm going to do it that way. So let's open up the level blueprint. And previously I've done this with event tick, so that it updates it every time, and then I've gone back and I added incrementing afterwards. But since I'm going to start out with incrementing in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do this off of event begin play. So let's go ahead and get that event begin play. There it is. Compile. I'm going to go ahead and get references to, I'll go ahead and get a reference to the sky sphere just in case I need it. I can't think of any reason I would. I don't think I need any reference to the skylight, but I will need a reference to the light source. So you're going to need some variables for this. What I'd like to do is divide the day down into minutes, which is 24 times 60, so that'd be 120, and 4 times 60 is 240, so it'd be 1,640, I believe. Maybe. Let's try a calculator. Hey, Cortana, you gonna help me out with the calculator? Alright, so 60, wow, this is really tall. 60 times 24 hours in a day, and you're gonna get 1440. I was close, not 1640. Okay, so you're going to want to create a variable. We'll call this length of day. You could also just hardwire this in every place that you use it, but I'm going to go ahead and make it a variable so that if I need to change it for any reason, 2440, okay. I'm going to have a variable called new time. That's what we're going to change to. And I'm going to have a variable called old time. So that's going to be prior to the increment. I'm also going to have a third variable that is a temp time for if we are lerping between new and old time. I can have it run into temp time and have the temp time update the new time every tick. That should be a pretty low weight on the tick, and it should give us a nice smooth transition for the increment, as opposed to just clicking it over. So what do I mean by incrementing? A day-night cycle. The sun goes in its orbit, it's daytime, sun sets, it's nighttime, sun rises and moves across the sky. That's pretty straightforward. The problem with that is that as the sun moves across the sky and the shadows change, the edge of the shadow can either be very sharp and crisp, and it's nice to see the shadows moving across, or it can be soft, which you don't really generally want. But if it's crisp and has a sharp shadow, oftentimes you'll end up with lighting artifacts as it moves across, say, 3 objects or objects that are casting dynamic shadows. The light map resolution isn't quite what you want it to be for moving shadows, and you end up with what looks really odd, maybe a jittering effect on some objects and a darkening and lightening blinking effect on other objects. And I'm sure somebody, please let me know if there's a fantastic way to correct all that with the lighting settings in Unreal. There's a lot of light settings in Unreal to play with, and I'm not saying there's not a way to fix this, but if you can't get it worked out just playing with the lighting settings in Unreal, the way to do it is to have the day running through its time, and as it goes through time, every 5 minutes, every hour, to shift the sun that increment. You'll have a lighting artifacts for all of 2 seconds, and then you can continue on for the next 3, 4, 5 minutes of gameplay without having any artifacts. So I'm also going to get an event tick, and what I'm going to do is, I think the way to do this is going to be to set up the rotation of that light actor, and there's some weirdness to this, so I'll talk through that. I can't remember exactly what about it is odd, but you'd think that it just sits on a 360-degree angle and you can just LARP between that, but that is not the case. When you do that, the sun goes up to a peak and then back down the same way it came, so, or it blinks back and forth. So we'll deal with that as it comes. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull off from this, and we are going to set the rotation of this. Let's set rotation, set actor rotation. We're going to do that every tick. Shouldn't be too much overhead. It's not doing any calculation here. It's just taking in a rotation. And what we're going to do is at event begin play, we're going to have a do loop that every increment sets a new rotation. Now you could do this so that it just also changes the rotation at that exact moment, but it would jerk one unless you built in a timeline, which I don't want to do because I don't feel like it. But you could do this all off event play, begin play. That's totally fine if you want to do that to save any overhead that the event tick node is bringing into your project. So let's start with a do once. I think that has a reset on it. Yep. Do once is going to do it, and then once it's completed, is really just an execute for what you want to do once. And what we want to do is we are going to add. We're also going to need, I'm sorry, I meant to get this out, the increment. So, length of day is 2400, new time starts at 0, old time starts at 0, temp time starts at 0, increment. What we're going to do is we're going to get the increment. This will be the public variable that you might want to change, as well as probably the length of day. So, and I can probably give this the default, but the slider range can go between, I don't know, 0 and say 4880, so twice as much. That'd be a day that's twice as long. We'll do the same here. 0 and 4880, you can do whatever you want with these. We'll say for the tooltip, set the length of the day in minutes. Okay, file that. So what we're going to do is when this runs, we are going to add this increment to the old time Actually, we probably don't need old and new. I don't know why I did that. We'll just delete this one. And we're going to rename this just time. So we're going to add the increment to time, and we're going to set time equal to this value. Now, this is going to be the basic version, and I'll add the lerps in either. I just want to get this functioning to some extent. Once it's been set, then we're going to have a real-time delay. So this is how often you want it to move up that much. So let's say your increment is going to be 60 minutes. Well, that's a lot. Let's say 5. You want it to go 5 minutes, but you don't want it to do that every 5 minutes. That would take all day. So what you're going to do instead is you're going to say the increment is, and let's say this is how often to increment time in seconds. Let's do seconds. Well, let's do. Well, let's just do ticks for now. I don't feel like working out the seconds. No, it isn't. It's going to be in seconds because I'm going to use a delay, which measures in seconds. And we'll say every 5 seconds as a default. So what we're going to do then is once this has been set, we do a delay. Duration is going to be get real-time delay. Now set a tooltip. Everybody set tooltips. It is a good idea if anybody's ever building with your systems. Much to increment by a time in minutes. If anybody's ever using this, it will be a huge. Nope, not reset. I want that to go to do once, and actually you might need just a straight do n, enter, exit, reset. No, that's fine. It shouldn't work. So let's see, compile, play. For some reason, oftentimes on the first one, you don't get 2, 3, 4, 5. Should fire off there. So I guess we do need to reset it. So let's see if I can reset and why it does that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. I guess I need to trigger a. So what we can do is we can do a sequence here. So first we're going to reset it, then we're going to do it. I guess that's the way to do these. They used to have one where you didn't have to reset it. It was just, it did it once and then you could put it through. If anybody can remember what that is, do maybe while. No, it won't be a while. It'd just be a do. Anyways, hopefully this will work now. See how it does that? I have to click it twice. 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. So now, if I pause this and I look at the time, my guess is the current value is 15. So that means it's 15 minutes after midnight, folks. It is the midnight hour. And it will continue to do that. And right now you can set all of that. So that's fantastic. We have numbers that represent us going through the day in minutes. But what does that do for us as far as representing that in light and sun angles? So what we're going to do is we need to get a rotation. And that rotation is not as obvious as you would think. So I'm going to compile and save all. Everybody save constantly. I don't know about you guys, but I constantly do stupid things in my blueprints or programming that causes Unreal to complain or quit, and then I lose work. And to prevent that, you should save a lot. So let's go ahead and look at the rotations here. Let's get this onto some sort of plane. Rotation 0, 0, 0. Okay, let's see, which way is that? 0, 0, 0, pointing to the right. So let's say 50. Is that obviously not what we want? We want to go, say, on the green. That's the Y. I think that's roll in the blueprint. So let's try some stuff. Let's say we put it at 45. What you expect? Negative 45. What you expect? Negative 135. So it looks like 180. Okay. So what we have to do is check to see, because it jumps straight from reading negative 179 to reading positive 180. So if we were to say want at midnight, you want negative 90, right? And then what you think is, oh well, every so many minutes I'm going to add a few degrees to it. So you go to negative 45, you're good. You get down to 0. Hey, it's sunrise. You looks like you're doing really good. Up to 90, noon. Well, I guess that's, I'm sorry, that's midnight. And then you start adding. Noon would be pointing straight down. I'm a fool. But from 90, you're going to add a few. You get up to, say, 120. Nope, 120. You get up to 150, 179. And then now you think, well, I need to go to 181. And it just is going to 195. Maybe you can just keep adding to it. I wonder what happens if 60, 720, 1080, nope, 1080. Okay, well maybe the way to do this, and I haven't done this before because I try to keep it under 360, is to just add to this ad infinitum, or use a modulo of 360. Keep the numbers entirely positive. I'm going to try that. If that works, then you will have seen me realizing that I've been incredibly stupid for the last quite a while. So let's go ahead and jump back into the level blueprint, and let's try this. Let's say we know that the day is going to be 2,440 minutes long, and we know that that needs to translate to numbers between 0 and 360. So what we're going to do is we're going to lerp, and then we are going to inverse lerp. So this is going to drive, maybe I did that backwards, returns the percentage b to a. Sorry, I did do this backwards. This value is going to drive the alpha. This is not going to be that at all. Okay, time to let go. There, Alt was not working. Okay, so this is going to drive the alpha, and we know that it needs to go between 0 and 2440. Actually, sorry, that is going to be length of day. This is where, if you were going to hardwire it, you would hardwire it in right there, but it's nice to have these visible variables so you don't actually have to jump down into this every time. Although it is on the level blueprint, so I'm not sure how helpful that is to you. But if this was in a controller, especially. And what we need to do now is go between 0 and 360. And that is going to, we're going to build rotator, make rotation, and let's go ahead and put that into the, I guess that's the pitch that we were working with. And we are going to need the SkySphere because we are going to need the set refresh materials to true. And you're going to want to run that. This Boolean that's on there, I don't know if you noticed earlier, but when I clicked it, what happened is it sets it to true, but then something always sets it to false. Sky sphere details refresh material. Hey, look, it's still false, but every time I click it, it does the update. So I'm not sure what controls that. That's just a little weird thing that you need to keep in mind, is that as you refresh this, you'll need to do that every time that you move change the rotation of the light source. At least that's how it was. Maybe that's changed, but it seems to be behaving the same. If that ever changes, that'll be a benefit. Okay, so what we're going to do is now we've made a rotation, and we're going to plug that in, and this should let's see, I think we want this to be 1. So we're normalizing between A and B, 0 and 2440, and 1. So that means that 1220 should come out to 0.5. Hopefully that is what I would like to see coming out of here. And if you want that to be a different number, you can do that, but the alpha input comes in as a value of 1. Am I doing this right? 100% of A when alpha is 0, and 100% of B when alpha is 1. Yes, so we want this really to be 1 because that's how a lerp works. So basically all I'm doing is I'm normalizing between, normalizing is a fancy word for saying I'm getting the percentage between two numbers at any given time multiplied by a value. So it's that as simple as that. Half, if this number is half of that, then it'll be half. You get out half of whatever the value you put in is. That's going to go into the pitch, and that's going to update the actor's rotation every single tick, which is fairly low overhead thing. Again, you can do that with a timeline. If you want this nice lerp, you could do that with this. Now, right now, it's not going to have any smoothness because what I'm plugging into A is going to be just get time. So that means every time it switches, you're just going to see a jerky switch, and I'll fix that momentarily. So let's go ahead and compile that. File, save all, build some good habits, and then let's go ahead and simulate and see if it starts at 0. Oh, that's a good thing. Start the time. You can default the time to if you want. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'm going to change the increments so that they're lower just to make sure that this is working. So increment, real-time delay, sorry, not the increment. Real-time delay, we're going to do 1 second. I will change the increment to 60 minutes so that it's more obvious to do, and I'm going to start the time at 12:20, which should be about noon. And 12:20 is not 12 o'clock and 20 minutes. Again, that's 1220 minutes from midnight, which should be 12 times 60, if my calculator did not let me down. It sounds wrong to me all of a sudden. 12 times 60, 720. What is it? 24, whoa. 24 times 60, 1440. Did I put 20? Length of day. That's not right. 1440. Somebody's probably already corrected me on that or complained in the comments if anybody ever watches this. And I accept your criticisms. 720. Okay. 60-minute increments, real-time delay of a second, compile. And let's go ahead and there we go. Isn't that lovely? It looks like we need to set some ray traced shadows and stuff on this light source. We can probably also pick it up a little bit, although I think that that's not mattering right now. Okay, so let's go into the light. Go into the light. That's not the light. Where's the light source? Light source. Details. Let's look at these details a little bit more closely. So it casts a translucent shadow, dynamic indirect lighting, cast static shadow, cast dynamic shadow, that's good. Light shafts. Light shaft occlusion. We want a little bit of bloom. We do want ray traced distant fields. Oh, what is the, there's always the one variable. The project setting, there it is. Generate mesh distance fields. Edit. I'll probably have to restart it after this. So, somewhere, maybe under rendering. Generate mesh distance fields. Yes. Restart now. Save selected. Save everything. We're at 30 minutes. That's good. I was hoping this would take about an hour. That's longer than a 10-minute tutorial, but hopefully that doesn't deter anybody. Okay, so now hopefully we can see what we get. Hey, we've got some shadows. Now, of course, the increment is terrible, so let's go ahead and change the increment down. Blueprints, open level blueprint. Real-time delay is fine, but the increment should not be 60. We want to do that as, say, 5-minute increments, I don't know, maybe. So, go. And look, it's noon. And notice that the light, I can probably twist this up some, but with these nice shadows. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the lighting source. Details. Sharpen the shadow filtering a little bit, maybe to about 0.5. Occlusion mask darkness. A lot of these settings I don't really know too much about. But okay, so now the only downside to this is that I want to start it at like noon. Blueprints, blueprint, time, 7:20. It should be 0 is midnight. 7:20 should be noon as far as I can tell. Oh, no, that's not the case at all, because we're setting the angle from 0, so 0 is actually going to be right at sunset or sunrise. So I probably want actually something along the lines of half of this, which would be 360. Let's try that. That might. Okay, I don't know. That's not. But anyways, you can see a jerk, and you'll especially be able to see this jerk in the shadow if you have larger increments. So what you can do to fix this is not have this be run by time. This can be set by Temp-time. The Temp-time can be lerped with a nice timeline driver. Timeline. Oh my goodness. Timeline. Add timeline. There we are. Okay, so this timeline is going to go from, let's just open this up, and we're going to add a float track, and the length is going to be whatever you want. However, this needs to be at very most, the length of your real-time delay. If you were to make it exactly the same, then theoretically you would have a smooth rotation. It needs to be less. So right now it's at a second. I'm not gonna keep it at a second because that defeats the purpose. You have a lot of overhead. I'm gonna put this at, say, 3 seconds, and I'll add a keyframe at the beginning, time 0, value 0, and I'll add a keyframe at the end. Let's go ahead and get this into view here. Wow, I don't know why I did that. Okay. Add a keyframe here, and this will be time 3, value 1. Why are we doing 1? Because it's going to be run into a lerp. Go figure. Except I didn't do value 1, did I? I did, okay, so it must be that. Okay, but you don't want it to be doing this, so what you're going to do is you're going to add another keyframe at 1.5, and you're going to set on all of these, you're going to do auto, auto, and auto. Now you have a little bit of control for this S-curve. What you're going to want to do is you don't want to jump in too steeply, so do something along those lines. Pull this down a little bit like this. Something like that. It's not really as auto as I would have wanted it to be. Maybe I should turn this into linear. Nope, that's just going to be the way it is. Okay, that's okay. You can play around with these all you want. I'm going to compile that. So it's going to output a value between 0 and 1 based on where it is in the timeline, which can be as long as you want it to be. So I'll exit that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to drive. Okay, lerp, sorry, not drive. We're going to lerp. We're going to drive a lerp with this. It's going to take that in, and we're going to come out with a value between time get and temp time get. Now, where is temp time getting set? It's getting set right here. We're not going to set time here anymore. We're going to set temp time here instead. And temp time is going to equal our increment plus the time. And then, once that's set, we're going to play this, has to be from the start. And we are going to go between, I'm sorry, that is not correct. We're going to go between time and temp time with the alpha driven by this. And what we're going to do is in each update we're going to set time equal to the return value. So what this is going to do is set the temp time once. Oh, this is why we do need new time and old time. So let's go ahead and make another variable. I had a plan for all of this, and I just can't remember anything. And we're going to rename this new time. And we are going to have new time do the driving up here. And new time is going to be between the old time and the temp time. This is going to be between the old time. It's going to increment from the old time. So what we're doing is, let's say it's 15 minutes past midnight. We're going to increment that by 5 minutes. So it's now the temp time is set to 20 after. We're going to play this from the start. We're going to go from 15 to 20, LARPing into new time, which is constantly driving this. Now we've finished that. It's completely LARPed. We've done all of the updates. Once this is finished, we need to set old time. So now we have a new old time. Wow, it's amazing. And we're going to set it to new time. Get new time. Because remember, we just set the new time up to what we want. It could be set to temp time, technically, actually. It just seems to make sense that new time and old time get squared right at this point. This then fires our delay, which remember, our real-time delay is too low now. It has to be greater than the timeline, because otherwise you get this wacky problem. So what we're going to do is then set this to, say, we'll try it at 3 to see. I'm actually curious to see how smoothly this works. And then we'll put it at 5. And there's the lighting artifacts I talked about. You can see. There we go. Small shadows. Oof. Look at that. That's some resolution stuff. Especially when it's at an angle like that. The resolution is low, and it's cutting, like one ray is cutting, well, it's not, each ray is going to hit, but if it's at an angle, then those rays hit much farther apart to hit that line. But you can see now that we've got, looks like every 3 seconds, but just a full time before it finishes. So it actually, you can, I think, technically have the length of time. So it's, I was wrong. It is doing 3 seconds, then it's finishing, delaying 3 seconds, and then switching up. You might be able to take the delay out and just use the timeline as a delay. I can experiment with that. But basically, the system is done. You can play with all of those values. I'll take another last look at it in a second, but you can see now that no lighting artifacts. And then every so often it moves, you can see a little bit of wiggling, but only for 3 seconds. And it's not a jerky movement, it's just a little non-noticeable. It's, if you're walking around in a level, you're playing, you're like, oh, this is cool, I'm gonna go over here, shoot some stuff, move this chair around, and stuff like that. You don't notice as much that this is happening so often. If you come to a full stop, and your increment is long enough, so say 6 seconds, which is how long it's taking total now, then you can look at the shadow and it won't be moving, so you can set that up. The shadow, stop, and we'll do real-time delay. We'll put this up to, like, I don't know, 30 seconds or something like that. And I really want to start this in the middle of the day, which would be new time. Starts out at 360. Temp time, old time starts out at 360. Ooh. 360. I don't know if that'll do it or not. Yeah. So I just moved, and look, I'm looking at these nice crisp shadows. They're not moving. There's no lighting artifacts. It seems like not even be a day-night cycle. And in 30 seconds, that will shift. And when it does, then you'll be able to see a very, if you're paying attention, a very noticeable shift in the light, because it's actually moving some distance, more than, the tip would do. There. Oh, but it's done now. And that's it. It's as subtle as that. And by doing that, you can get a nice day-night cycle without lighting artifacts every second, while eliminating a little bit of overheading from doing all of those calculations and additions every single day. I hope that was beneficial. I'm going to continue playing around with this for a couple minutes here, but I think that's it for the live stream. And if I have any cool thoughts afterwards, I will open up another video and save that separately. I'll archive that one separately if I do. But for now, thanks for watching, and I hope that this was helpful to at least somebody. Stop. I said stop the live stream. Stop.